Alright, so my name is Jeremy McFarland, and this is going to be my research project, and it's titled Walk in My Shoes, How Supervisors with and Without Subordinate Job Duty Experience Are Perceived. And basically all that means is your supervisors, they have one of three things. They either have specific job experience performing the job duties of their subordinates, they have similar experience, or they have no experience performing their subordinates' job duties. And so what we're going to do is look at the relationship of how supervisors are perceived by their subordinates because of that. So the problem, you have your subordinates sometimes, they run into situations at work and they talk to their supervisors and they say, their supervisors don't understand. And they say, well, if you only knew what I was dealing with, or if you only walked in my shoes, maybe you would understand what I'm going through. And that might be the case. Sometimes supervisors know what they're going through, and other times they don't because they've never done the job duties of their subordinates. So that's the problem that we're having. One research that I found by LaPierre said supervisors and subordinates have a negative relationship because sometimes the subordinates don't have confidence in their supervisors. They don't trust them because of whatever reason. So this is one characteristic that we're going to look at. Because supervisors have little to no experience performing the subordinates' job duties. And that might be because of external hire or versus internal promotion. And what makes a good supervisor? What are the characteristics that make a good leader? So some of the studies that address the problem, I'm not going to go into all the details of these research articles and everything, but I will explain some of them. And my project is loosely based off the Peter Principle, which is under the management theory, and it basically says people are promoted to their level of incompetence, meaning people are promoted up until the point where they don't really know what they're doing, and then at that point they begin to fall off. And that's internal promotion most of the time, and all these studies look at that. Costa looks at that, and he looks at why internal promotions don't work. Romaine looks at the same thing and why internal promotions are difficult to maintain. Ticino looks at it at the same thing, but the difference in his is that he offers alternative solutions for promotional strategies. One study that I did find in a positive relationship was from Eisenberger and Schenning, and their study found that there was a positive relationship between perceived organizational support, POS, and perceived supervisor support, PSS. And basically all that's saying is when the organization supports the supervisors support the subordinates, and there's a positive relationship flowing between all of those. Their research did suggest that in future research that they focus on characteristics of the supervisor that affect the relationship between supervisors' perceived organizational support and subordinates perceived supervisor support. So that's what we're doing right here. We're looking at one specific characteristic, and that's past job duty experience by the supervisor. And we're going to see if there is a positive relationship between that, and see if perceived supervisor support is still positive because of that. I have here Peter Principle focuses on difficulties surrounding internal promotion, and we talked about that just a few minutes ago. So the significance of this study, hopefully it will enhance hiring practices in organizations for lower level managers and possibly even upper level managers. It'll help the development of lower level supervisors. Like I was saying earlier about that study, I think it was by Romaine that internal promotions, they're very difficult to maintain. So hopefully we can enhance the development of those supervisors and also extend the longevity of lower level supervisors. And I have here also to further the study of supervisor perception. There are a ton of research articles and journals about perception of supervisors and organizations. So the purpose of this study, we are testing whether supervisor past experience relates to subordinate perception. Study specific aspects of external hire versus internal promotion. Test why internal promotions are difficult to maintain under the Peter Principle. Again, this is loosely based off of the Peter Principle. but we're just going to look at one characteristic for that. Methodology, it's going to be a single case study, survey design. Oh, actually, I want to go back to that slide, and also I want to say that we could, to get it even more accurate, if we wanted to, we could look, I think it's one more, this slide. Yeah, so when I was talking about perception and perceived supervisor support, so we could go even further with that and see what supervisors' perception of themselves are, and that could give us some more accurate data. We could also come full circle with that and see how upper level management perceives lower level supervisors, the upper level subordinates, which would be the supervisors. But this study is just going to kind of keep it simple and focus on just one aspect of supervisors' perception from their subordinates based off their past job experience. I just had to throw that in there, sorry. So methodology, single case study. We're going to be doing a survey design. The survey will be online and anonymous. The participants will consent to the survey if they complete the full survey and submit it. And at any time, if they don't want to participate, they can stop the survey and back out without any penalty. And the participants will not be compensated for it. No compensation for the whole survey is what I'm trying to say. So the population for this will be Texas Instrument employees, specifically at the RFAB location in Richardson, Texas. And it will be comprised of manufacturing specialists and technicians, and that total population is 260. So the sample for that, like I said, there will be specialists and technicians. Our target sample of that is 155 people, and you might be wondering where I get that target from, and that is because of the population of power. Excuse me if I say his name correctly, Krejci and Morgan's table for determining sample size from a given population. They basically do calculations, and here's their table. They basically do calculations what your population is and what your sample size should be based off that population, and they put it in a nice table for everybody. So N is our population of 260, and S is our target sample size of 155. And the slide might be a little difficult to see, but basically our population 260, target sample size 155. Our instrumentation for this study, like I said, will be online Google survey. We're going to use statistical analysis software, Tableau, and or SPSS. And we're going to use the 5-point Likert scale, and 5 being strongly agree to the questions, 4 being somewhat agree, 3 neutral, 2 somewhat disagree, and 1 strongly disagree. And that just gives us accurate data using the Likert scale. I know there's a 6-point and 7-point or whatever, but we're going to use the 5-point on this. And here's a sample of the survey. I know this also might be another hard slide to see, but it's basically just got a few sample questions. It's not the full survey, it's just a few of them, but I'll go ahead and read a few. So my supervisor has similar experience performing my job duties. My supervisor has specific experience performing job duties. I trust my supervisor because he or she has experience performing job duties. I trust my supervisor regardless of his or her past work experience. I would trust my supervisor more if he or she had experience performing my job duties. I would prefer my supervisor have experience performing my job duties. And my perception of my supervisor has nothing to do with his or her past work experience. Again, this is a survey for the subordinates and their perception of their supervisor based off of their job experience. Data collection, we'll be collecting this across 4 different work shifts, approximately 65 people per shift. We'll have 1 pilot test shift, and if the pilot test data is insufficient, then we'll include the pilot test shift during the live survey just to get some more, hopefully to increase the participant number. It'll be 45 days total. The pilot test will last 15 days, and that includes the test and analysis. The live test, we're going to give a little more time, so we'll have 15 days for the live test and 15 days for analysis and writing up the report and findings. So for the data analysis, like I said, statistical analysis software, inductive and deductive reasoning will be used. We'll code and categorize the data and hopefully we can find patterns and relationships to correlate for subordinate perception to their supervisor and their past job experience. So here are some of the references from the presentation. Again, this presentation is going to be looking at subordinate perception of their supervisors, specifically at whether the supervisors have specific job experience of their subordinates or not experience. And we want to see what the relationship is. Is it a positive relationship that they have the job experience, or is it a negative relationship because they don't, or vice versa? So that's basically what the presentation is going to be about. I'm excited to get to do it and see what the results are. And thanks for your time.